You see, the problem with most people is they've accepted being average. They've convinced themselves that being content is a virtue. They'll say, I'm happy with what I've got, as if mediocrity is something to be proud of. A mindset disgusted me. I couldn't understand how someone could wake up, drive their boring car to their boring job, live in a boring house, and somehow be okay with it. I never wanted to be that guy. I looked around and saw men living lives that seemed out of reach, driving supercars, living in mansions, flying private, and I didn't envy them. I got angry. I couldn't stand the idea that someone else was living a life I couldn't. That fire inside me wasn't jealousy, it was hunger. I didn't want to be normal. I wanted to be exceptional. When I was broke, that frustration consumed me. I'd see a Ferrari fly past and it would ruin my entire week. My friends never understood why it bothered me so much, but it wasn't about the car, it was about what it represented. It was proof that someone had figured out something I hadn't, that someone out there refused to settle while everyone else just accepted the bare minimum. I refused to accept less. That's what drove me, the pure disgust of being average. I told myself that I'd rather die chasing greatness than live comfortably as another invisible man. You have to understand, the reason most people never change their lives is because they don't feel enough pain from where they are. They're too comfortable. They've numbed themselves into thinking that comfort equals happiness, but true happiness doesn't come from being comfortable. It comes from conquering, from breaking limits, from knowing you became something greater than you were yesterday. If you're not angry about your situation, you'll never fix it. That burning dissatisfaction, that's your greatest weapon. Let it fuel you. Let it remind you that you're capable of more. The truth is, the ones who win in life aren't the ones who accept it. They're the ones who get pissed off enough to change it. People don't understand that anger, when directed the right way, is one of the most powerful forms of energy a man can have. I wasn't angry at the world for no reason. I was angry because I knew I was capable of more. Every time I saw someone doing better than me, it burned inside my chest like fire. I'd see a man in a Lamborghini, and instead of clapping for him, I'd think, why not me? That anger became my fuel. It pushed me harder than any motivational quote ever could. Most people waste their anger. They complain, they blame, they cry. I turned mine into action. When I was broke, I used to walk past expensive restaurants and luxury stores, furious that I couldn't walk in and buy anything I wanted. But instead of letting that feeling break me, I let it build me. I didn't run from my frustration, I used it. Anger, when controlled, becomes focus. It becomes the spark that makes you work when everyone else is sleeping. It becomes the reason you keep going when the results haven't shown yet. Every empire that's ever been built was fueled by someone who refused to accept his place and got angry enough to change it. The truth is, people today are too soft. They see someone doing better than them and say, good for him. That's weakness disguised as humility. You should look at success and feel something, not jealousy, but irritation. That little voice inside that says, I can do better than this, that's your signal to move. Use that frustration like a weapon. Let it remind you that comfort is the cage that keeps you from greatness. If you can turn your anger into ambition, you become unstoppable. Because a man who's pissed off in the right way can't be distracted. He doesn't care about opinions. He doesn't care about fear. He just moves. That's how I built everything I have. That's how you rise above mediocrity. Anger isn't your enemy. Laziness is. The world doesn't reward calm acceptance. It rewards those who use their fire to carve their destiny. Comfort is the slowest form of death. It doesn't kill you instantly. It kills your fire, your ambition, your hunger. Most people fail not because they don't have potential, but because they get comfortable too soon. They earn a little money, get a stable job, and suddenly stop chasing greatness. That's when decline begins. The moment you stop pushing forward, you're already falling behind. Progress isn't optional. It's a man's duty. When I was broke, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was lazy or hopeless, but because my mind refused to accept that I was stuck. Every night, I'd stare at the ceiling thinking, this can't be my life. That discomfort became my drive. I learned that pain and pressure are gifts. They force you to evolve. You'll never grow in a place where you feel safe. The man who wakes up comfortable every day is already dead inside, while the man who wakes up restless is alive and dangerous. You see, society tells you to take it easy, Be happy with what you have. Don't overwork. But that's the lie that traps average people forever. Comfort is seductive. It makes you believe you're doing fine while it quietly robs you of your potential. The truth is, the ones who win are those who stay uncomfortable, even when they're winning. When I started making money, I didn't slow down. I worked harder. Because the moment you think you've made it, you lose the edge that got you there. You know, a man's power comes from momentum. You have to keep building, keep improving, keep expanding. If you don't, the world moves on without you. Success is like fire. If you stop feeding it, it dies. So when you start feeling too safe, too relaxed, that's your warning sign. Get up, do more. The pain you feel when you push yourself is the proof that you're still alive. So, comfort has destroyed more dreams than failure ever has. Don't let it destroy yours. Stay hungry, stay uncomfortable, and you'll keep climbing. Because only those who reject comfort ever get to experience what true greatness feels like. The truth is, most people aren't broke because they're stupid. They're broke because they're lazy or arrogant. Laziness and arrogance are the deadliest combination a man can have. You can survive being average, you can survive making mistakes, but you can't survive believing you already know everything while doing nothing about it. That mindset kills progress before it even starts. When I was coming up, I learned to shut up and listen. I didn't walk into a room thinking I was the smartest guy there. I wanted to learn from everyone who had results I didn't have. That's how I became world champion. I didn't tell my coach what to do. I did what he said. I followed instruction because success doesn't come from pride, it comes from obedience to the process. But most people are too arrogant to listen. They want to talk, to argue, to defend their comfort zone. That's why they stay broke. The lazy ones sit around making excuses. They say they'll start next week. They say they're waiting for the right time. The arrogant ones pretend they don't need advice. Both end up in the same place, stuck, frustrated, and broke. Meanwhile, the man who humbles himself, learns, and takes relentless action is the one who wins. Ambram Sam Sam. You have to kill your ego before it kills your future. Future, if Elon Musk walked into the room and started teaching me about business, I wouldn't argue, I'd take notes. But most people would argue with a millionaire trying to justify why their weak mindset is okay. They want to be right more than they want to be rich. That's insanity. You can't grow if you think you already know everything. Arrogance blinds you. Laziness chains you. Together, they keep you trapped in mediocrity. The only way out is through humility and hard work, listening, learning, and executing every single day. You don't need to be the smartest or the fastest. You just need to be disciplined enough to do what others want. And humble enough to admit you have more to learn. People fear failure more than anything, but the truth is failure today costs almost nothing. You're not going to die if your business fails. You're not going to starve if you lose a job. You'll still eat, you'll still have a place to sleep, and you'll wake up tomorrow just fine. The modern world has made failure painless, yet people act like it's the end of the world. That fear keeps them frozen in mediocrity. They don't even try, not because they can't win, but because they're terrified of looking stupid for a few moments. When I was broke, I failed countless times. I tried ideas that didn't work, took risks that didn't pay off, and made decisions that hurt. But I never saw failure as the finish line. I saw it as information. Every mistake showed me something the average man would never learn because he was too afraid to even start. That's why I kept winning. The man who fails 10 times learns 10 lessons. The man who never tries learns nothing. People talk about playing it safe, but safe is just another word for stuck. You can't live your whole life wondering what could have been. That's the real punishment, not failing, but living with regret. Imagine reaching locks or sand, realizing you never even tested your limits. That thought should terrify you more than failure ever could. The truth is, failure is the tax you pay for greatness. It's the process that separates dreamers from doers. Every time you fall and get back up, you become more dangerous, more capable, and more unbreakable. And once you realize that nothing truly bad happens when you fail, fear disappears. You become free. You can lose money, time, or energy, but the only thing you truly lose is the chance to find out who you could have been. So stop being scared, take risks, try everything. The worst that can happen is you fail and learn. The best that can happen is you win and change your life forever. Failure doesn't destroy you. Inaction does. The biggest mistake you can make is never trying at all. Everyone wants a life without stress, without anxiety, without worry, but that life doesn't exist. Misery is universal. Every man, no matter how rich or poor, feels pressure, fear, and doubt. The difference is what they're suffering for. You can suffer sitting in traffic on your way to a job you hate, or you can suffer while building an empire. The pain is the same, but one leads to greatness, the other leads to nothing. When I tell people this, they look shocked. They think once you make money or find success, all your problems disappear. That's a lie. The problems just change shape. The stress never goes away. You just decide what kind of stress you're willing to carry. You can be stressed because your bills are due, or you can be stressed because you're running multiple businesses. Either way, life will test you, so you might as well make the struggle worth it. Most people waste their lives trying to escape discomfort. They avoid challenges, avoid risks, avoid pain. But all that running only traps them deeper in mediocrity. They end up depressed, anxious, and unfulfilled because deep down they know they never tried to become more. True peace doesn't come from comfort. It comes from progress, from knowing you're moving forward even when it's hard. When I face problems, I don't complain. I remind myself this is the price of power. Pressure means you're doing something meaningful. Anxiety means you care. Struggle means you're still in the game. You don't remove these feelings, you master them. That's what separates winners from the weak. The weak run from pain, the strong turn it into power. So stop waiting for life to be easy. It never will be. You will always feel the weight, the pressure, the chaos. But when you're fighting for something bigger than yourself, that pain feels different. It has purpose. Choose the pain that builds you, not the one that breaks you. Everyone suffers. Just make sure your suffering means something. Because the man who suffers for progress wins.